Alright, so in the previous video, I mentioned I would bring back up the discussion about racial covenants and redlining. So to go ahead and jump into it, I'm going to briefly talk about racial covenants, and then I'm going to briefly talk about redlining, and then I'm going to talk about the impacts and effects that we are feeling today from those two mechanisms. So a racial covenant at the core is basically a deed, like the legal document for a property. Within that deed, it indicates to whom can and cannot live within a dwelling, be it a lot of land or a whole entire suburb community. So in these covenants or in these deeds, they was explicitly state who could live in these areas by their races, and ultimately to say that if you aren't white, then you can't live here. So this is like the prereq for redlining, the prereq for gentrification, the prereq for urban renewal. Then you move on to redlining, and redlining is okay. Now we see that we have a populated area of a minority, and we can now then go ahead and outline and precisely show on a map a area that now we can deem as hazardous because of their response to the cutoff from the greater economy. When you aren't able to tap into the same resources that your other peers are able to tap into, whether it is again with the housing, or whether it's with education, or whether it's with business, or whether it's with health, or whether it's with mental health. All of those factors are impacted heavily, directly, and severely by those two mechanisms. And so I don't believe that we as America can progress forward until we as a whole, or even within pockets of our nation, until we are able to be open, receptive, understanding, and willing to move forward, then we won't move forward. And then following that, I think it'll take two things in conjunction to progress us forward. Those two being actionable plans along with resources. And of course, we know the resources are there because we paying taxes that are then going back to our communities, and our nation, as we've seen that this coronavirus, has the resources. It's a matter of then reassessing where we are putting our resources. Something, and I'll wrap up on this note. In Roanoke, I don't know the details, but there was a opportunity, I should say, that we had to have $280 million invested into Roanoke. And while I'm thinking about it, drop down in the comments what you would do to your city if you were given $280 million and you had to direct that $280 million into your city's infrastructure and to your city's citizens. So drop a comment down in the video below and I'll check them later. So I myself, if you gave me $280 million to invest into Roanoke's infrastructure and Roanoke's citizens, then I would firstly look at the most deprived, the most dilapidated, the most depressed communities within the Roanoke Valley. And I would focus on those areas and bring them up to really revitalize these communities. Because if you go through like the Southwest community or like the Gainesboro community, you'll notice like it's just lots upon lots upon lots where houses are supposed to be. Like there are literally just houses that are missing, and it's a normalcy, and that's not normal. Because I dare you to go to Cave Spring or go to any of the more affluent communities within Roanoke, and you wouldn't dare see a lot just open, undeveloped. And if it is, it's not undeveloped, it's being developed, it's in the process. So I would focus on bringing those communities up, definitely reinvest into the Burrell Hospital, turn that back into a hospital, a functioning hospital for that community, turn the schools back into schools. We have schools that have been turned into apartments. And so I definitely even take a portion of those houses that are dilapidated, build those back up, allow them to serve their initial purpose, and then reinvest into those infrastructures that were initially schools and build those back up and allow them to be mechanisms for the individuals in that community, be it the youngest or the eldest, to receive information to proceed forward within their life strategically and actionably. And then I say two other things along with, like I said, housing and education like turning some of those open lots of land into gardens for that community and creating a whole infrastructure for the community to be able to produce its own product, being the food, and then to reinvest and resell that, and just, entrepreneurship for the kids, and that's health and well-being for the community. Then I would pour into the creativity, the arts, not only for like just theater and like dance and like film, like have all the different elements of arts, whether it be one art like community, like congregation, and maybe there's like 10 different buildings, like a small university of sorts, like a community university. So that's what I would take the $280 million. I'd take it and invest into those 4 different mechanisms. So with that said, that's as much as I can express in regards to redlining and racial covenants as where I am now, today, in this moment. And so with all that said, again, all this research and information that I'm pulling up and thinking about is all to go into a film that I'm currently working on and writing. And so I appreciate you, just checking out this video and soaking up some of the information. Hopefully it'll give you some, thoughts and some different ways to look at the communities that you may be living in or maybe just driving by. Again, I appreciate you for watching. I'll catch you on the next one. All right, that's a bet.